Hello and welcome. Another edition of the new and improved Core Vive Coaches Corner, where each and every week I take a few minutes and we try to catch up with some college coaches to add some perspective and hopefully gain some insights into the new and improved world of college baseball recruiting. Today, we are going to be joined by a former college All American, Arizona State All American, formerly Pac 12 participant, also a major leaguer, now coaching within the ACC, as funny as this will sound, Cal Bears out in Berkeley, California. Coach Brett Wallace. And Brett, I want to say thank you first and foremost for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
One of the things I'd love to start with is, obviously now with having Stanford and Cal joining the ACC, to go along with the Wake Forest, the UVA, the Duke, et cetera. Talk a little bit about that dynamic with regard to the student and the athlete at a school like Cal Berkeley and what that type of daily routine looks like for you as a baseball coach with your program.
For sure. I think, the main difference that's come up with the ACC is really the travel. So going to the East Coast 4 or 5 times a year, depending on the season, that adds a little bit of strain as far as just figuring out when we're going to get there and do all that. I think the university has done a really good job of planning ahead and knowing that that time change and that the length of travel was going to impact the guys a little bit. So we leave on Wednesdays now. So we're leaving Wednesday instead of Thursday, getting in a day earlier. That way we can get in, move around. We can get the guys out to like a light practice maybe on Wednesday, and then Thursday have our normal practice day. And then by the time Friday rolls around, I mean, the guys are ready to go. And we felt really confident about the preparedness of our guys on the Friday games and being ready for that series. As far as the school, obviously Cal Berkeley is a really high-end academic school, so that we just have to really be on top of it. We have great academic advisors that do a really good job of preparing our players for what it's going to look like leaving class early or missing classes or making sure we reschedule things and get on top of it so that they're capable of getting the education that they expect when they're there.
Talk from a recruiting perspective. A lot of parents, when they're starting to look at some of the higher level academic universities and colleges, really don't have an awareness of the support staff that's really involved, not only when you're on campus, when you're off campus. When you're out recruiting, how do you convey to your potential recruits what a day in the life looks like with regard to the guidance, the support staff with regard to proctoring when you're on the road, things like that? How do you convey that we're going to make sure that you have every resource necessary to be a student as well as a student athlete at Cal?
For sure. I think the staff at Cal is second to none as far as just offering support, having every avenue, whether it's like you said, proctoring tests on the road, whether it's tutors because our students are in and out of classes and they need to be able to meet with people and get help or just get understanding of what they're looking for in the classes, things like that. It goes all the way to like nutrition, strength coaches, like going through the process of what they should be eating, how they should be fueling their body so they have energy and focus. The list of resources is endless, and we try to do as best of a job as we can when we're out talking to parents and kids. Like, hey, here's some of the things we can do for you. These are the things we ask you to like really lean into and take advantage of while you're here. And the best thing we can do for them, to be honest, is put them in contact with our resources when it's the appropriate time. So when they're on campus and things like that, scheduling visits with our academic team, our nutrition team, all of our like academic services teams, like all of those people, put them in front of those really smart people that we have in place and let them kind of explain the depths of the resources that they have to them. And I think once kids understand how much help is out there, they really understand how successful they can be.
One of the great opportunities for recruits and student athletes that Cal have with you as a coach is you are a resource that has that perspective of being an elite college player, albeit back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s. Can you talk about some of the things that you've noticed that have changed, maybe for the better, or that make things a little bit more challenging with regard to being a student athlete in 2025 going into 26 as opposed to the early 2000s or when you were playing at that collegiate level?
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of changes. One, obviously, just the first biggest one is the travel, right? Like we were playing locally, we were playing on the West Coast. West Coast baseball was really powerful at the time. Having that ability to play short series, as far as like travel being an hour, 45 minutes, things like that was, I think, special. And it also kind of created that buzz locally as far as, schools that you saw all the time. And then I think the second, obviously, is just like the invention of social media and the explosion of it has changed the way players are graded or assessed or talked about or put out there and stuff. There's a lot more noise. There's a lot more things going on like that. So there's a lot of people telling them what they should be doing, what they're good at, what they're not good at, and all that stuff. And it's a little bit louder, and you have to learn how to block a lot of that stuff out. And I think when I was playing, you had the newspapers and you had, maybe some online articles and stuff, but you didn't have this narrative where people could talk to you as much and give their opinions and tell you what to do. So I think that's something that we really have to navigate in this world, is teaching our guys like, hey, like no one else's opinion matters but ours in this room. Like this group, this is what matters. Like our opinions, what we're working on and what our goals are, that's all that matters. And then the second is like, how do you block that out? Because when they're outside of our walls, how do we make sure that they're in a position to mentally understand that those people's opinions don't impact anything they do, and they shouldn't give them more value than they're worth, and they should stay focused on their task.
Well, parents and athletes, for from an edification perspective, I want to interject this. We're talking Brett Wallace, and we're talking about a major league athlete that played Astros and Padres. And so when I ask this next question, I want you to kind of understand that dynamic. So, Brett, what I would love for you to discuss with young athletes, that junior, senior in high school, trying to make their way into college, how can you get them to understand how to tune out the white noise, like limit the amount of voices as far as I have this hitting guy over here, I'm watching this hitting guru on social media, I went 0 for 4 and everybody's telling me I stink. How can you get the younger athletes to just be where their feet are each and every day and become the best version of themselves for today? Don't worry about yesterday's results or tomorrow's opportunities.
For sure, it's challenging, definitely. I think in this world with all the noise, like I was talking about, it's hard to sometimes teach kids and help them understand that those things aren't as powerful as it's only as powerful as you give them the freedom to be powerful, right? And so we try to do a really good job of just preaching team and work. So for me, when you're focused on your work and you have a daily plan and a daily, like, hey, these are the checklists of things I need to do to get better or to stay where I am and then continue to add something to my game. When the work speaks for itself, like the confidence comes from that. And when you're confident, the result's not going to dictate where we look for information. We're not going out hunting for new information. We understand that, hey, like my process is really good, my work's really good. And at the end of the day, if those things are in place, good things are going to happen for you, especially for the talented kids, right? And so I'm a big believer in preaching the work and the process. Like, hey, we're going to work on self-talk, we're going to work on mental prep, we're going to look at visualization and making sure that our guys understand what result we're working for, what it looks like, what it feels like. And then also just remembering the good times, like, hey, this is when you're successful. You remember what this felt like? Remember how well you were going? And then at the end of the day, if you're focused on the work, that's going to take precedent to everything else out there, all that noise.
A lot of parents will send me questions with regard to, how, with regard to hitting workouts and things of that nature. What is a typical day when you're working with your hitters at Cal Berkeley? Is it cage work? Is it tee work? Are you hitting more moving objects as opposed to stationary or soft toss? I'd love for you to discuss what a typical day looks like in the fall for a hitter at Cal Berkeley.
Yeah, so everyone's slightly unique, right? Like we all move slightly differently, and we're going to talk about things differently to each other as far as the words that help and don't help other players. But for me, it's honestly like foundational is like mirror work first is where we're going to start. We're going to look in the mirror. We're going to understand how our body's moving, what sequences we want, what we want it to look like, and what it really looks like. Because our eyes lie to us sometimes, right? Like our brain, or I should say, our brain lies to us. Like we think we're in a position where, like, oh yeah, my hands are all the way back, or I'm separated, or my move is connected. And then you look in a mirror, you look at video, and you're like, they are not at all. They're not where you think they are, and our brain is lying to us. So we want to do a really good job of starting with the foundation of seeing things. So we video and we use the mirror quite a bit, making sure they understand the movement patterns they're in, the positions they're putting themselves in. And then I'm a big believer in tee, so we do use the tee every day. a lot of guys come in with their own plan as far as what they want to hit off the tee. And what we do is we try to kind of take what they've already done and then the things that we see in their swing and the things that we think should be foundational, and we create a new plan for them. So this is what we think your tee routine should look like every day. And I feel like we do a really good job of making sure we have time to hit with everybody one-on-one or two-on-one at the most. So it's always in a small group or individual. So we can kind of get to know the hitter, understand what they're doing. We put them through a tee routine, then we go through a flip routine, and then we'll go through a machine routine, more as a group with the machines, and then we'll take batting practice during the day.
So, from a tee workout perspective, I don't think we hear this enough, especially from elite hitting coaches. Talk a little bit about, okay, if I'm struggling getting into that inside fastball, what should the tee work look like? Conversely, if I'm rolling over on the outer half, what should the tee workout look like, especially for the younger hitters that are working on these progressions?
Yeah, I think one thing that I do think happens a lot of times is like if I'm struggling on the ball in, what happens is we only hit the ball in, right? Like we're putting the ball way out front. We're trying to work all this, like I'm going to stay inside this baseball. I'm going to do all these things. For me, it starts with what's our bread and butter? It's staying through the baseball through the middle of the field. So I always try to preach to our guys, no matter what we're going to work on, we start the baseballs away and it's deep. So we're working on contact depth. We're working on staying on the baseball and getting on plane as early as we can. When we move that ball deep in the zone away, it's forcing us to be short and deep with our contact. So we're able to do that, stay through the baseball, and then we're going to work across the plate to the pull side. But I'm passionate about the fact that like when we work on one thing, we have to make sure we keep the thing that's good. We got to keep it really good, and then we got to try to add to our bag. And I think too many players right now, what happens is guys tell them like, "Hey, you don't pull the ball well," and so then all we see in BP and practice is like we're trying to pull everything, and it's like we can't create a new hole trying to fix an old hole, And so I'm really passionate about trying to make sure our guys understand like it's the whole process. It's like, hey, if I'm not pulling the baseball well, it might actually start with the way I'm hitting the ball away. Like I might be pulling that ball up the middle and it doesn't look as bad because it's not foul. And so I start at that place. We'll start with, deep tee, going the other way, staying through the baseball, work across the plate. And we will try to get to the inside of that baseball. As far as like pulling the baseball straight, like I'm a big believer in picking a seam and trying to be aggressive through that inside seam of the baseball. I think when we start talking about like getting inside the baseball, that's when we start kind of cutting inside of it. We'll start getting slice, and then we get guys that are pushing their hands a little bit. So I think giving them cues as well, not just like, hey, hit the ball, like put the ball out front and try to pull it. Like, how do we give you like a really specific cue that's going to help you get to that inside corner of that baseball and attack it so that we can get through it?
One of the aspects that I think now more than ever in our social media world, where there's just a myriad of information that gets disseminated across, all social media platforms, is we talk so much about the high school slash travel ball athlete making that quantum leap into college. What is the biggest challenge that you have as a coach with your younger incoming student athletes, that freshman, sophomore class, with regard to confidence, self-confidence, and maybe adjusting their routines? What are some of the things that you would suggest to the class of 26, 27, and 28 as far as how to best prepare for college?
I think like for me, the biggest thing I see is everyone that comes in thinks they work really hard, right? They think they have the best plan. They think they're like established. Like, hey, I already know what I'm doing. Like I'm ready to go. I was a guy in high school. And I think this is true about every level, to be honest, like the jump from high school to college to pro ball to the big leagues. The work has to get more specific and it has to be with more intent. And so we have to learn like, hey, the work has to be better than everybody else because we're trying to do something that's better than the average person, right? Like we're trying to be special. So the work has to be special. And so it has to be super detailed. It has to be focused. It's not necessarily about how many reps, it's about how good the reps are. And so um, I think trying to get those guys to understand just like how focused they have to be in every rep. I see a lot of guys that will come in and they want to hit on the machine for an hour. And it's like, that is great concept. Like we want to take swings, we want to work. That's awesome. But let's now harness that and put it into what's the specific things we can be doing to build confidence the true way, which is not by result, it's by work. And so I think that's like kind of where a lot of our young guys come in. It's like the result kind of tells them that they're good instead of like, hey, I did all the work, I took all the steps, and I do it every single day, no matter how I feel. And that's what builds confidence. You go into a game, and you're like, hey, my swing is dialed. Now, I might get no hits, but I might hit everything hard. I might take terrible swings. I might chase. All those things might be true, but the work is there. And so like, I know my swing is ready. And that's where like true confidence and true, I think that jump comes from, is guys that know they're ready.
So, from a recruiting perspective, what are some of the critical points that you're kind of looking at when you're evaluating? I know a lot of parents think it's results. They'll always say to me, "Well, that college guy saw my son; he went 3 for 4." Okay, well, there's a myriad of things happening underneath that. Were you chasing breaking balls in the dirt? What pitcher were you facing? Talk about some of the key foundational dynamics of a student athlete that make them attractive for you as a coach at Cal.
For sure. So I think one thing we do that's pretty cool is we have layers to our recruiting, right? So like I'll assess hitters as far as what I see of them as a hitter, and as a person. Bodie might come in and talk to the other team's coaches and stuff about how they pitched him or how he what his approach was, things like that. So we kind of come together. But I'm kind of more the guy that's going to come in and break down. I look for movement patterns, like how your body works, how it's able to move. I do love results. Like we love guys that win. We love guys that get hits. Like everybody loves those things, right? Like if we had the choice, successful or unsuccessful, we're going to pick successful. But we are looking at how the result came. Like how did your body move? What's your bat speed like? What's your plate discipline like? What kind of hitters, like innate hitter skills do you have? Things like that. We want to see all those things. We also want to see, like, are you a leader? Because there's a lot of really good players in high school that aren't leaders and aren't team guys. And to be honest, that's not necessarily a fit for us, because like we don't want guys that want to come in and just get drafted and leave. We want guys to come in and make an impact on the program, help us win, and then get drafted and go play. So there's a lot of factors to go into it, but definitely being a good teammate, definitely being a competitor, definitely being prepared and having a good plate discipline. And then from like a mechanical standpoint, in my mind, it's less about getting hits, more about the movement patterns, the positions you're able to hold with your body, the way your body moves, things like that. That's the most important to me.
If you were able to offer like the class of 27 and 28, the high school guys, what are some of the kind of main ingredients that you would want them to be polished or better prepared for when it comes time to being recruited as a senior? And the last part of that question I would love for you to talk about, are you being more patient as a staff, waiting until these athletes are older, meaning into their senior fall, before really making a move with regard to recruiting?
Yeah, so I'll touch on that one first, just because I think it kind of goes into all the above. But we are more patient for sure. We want to get a better understanding of every player we recruit. So we're not recruiting classes of 20, 30 people just because we know that we can. We're trying to recruit small, talented, and the right identity group. So when we do that, it takes a little more time. You have to do more digging. You have to see them play more times. You have to get to know the person and the player and the family and all of those things and understand who they are. So we do tend to have a little bit slower of a process, and we do tend to play it out a little longer, not because we're not interested, but because we want to make sure the fit is great for both sides and that it's a great situation for everybody involved. As far as what I'd like to see, I think honestly, like I want to see guys that compete. I want to see guys that are good teammates, and those two things seem simple, but I don't think in the travel ball culture it's always true. There are some organizations that are better than others. Um, and I think that it's really important that like you go out there and compete and you go out there and be a great teammate, because those things carry over whether you're getting multiple hits, whether you're not, whether you're playing for us or you're not. Like those things carry over, and hits come and go. Like no matter who you are, you're going to have good days and bad days. But if you can't do those core foundational things as far as being a good teammate and being a competitor and competing at everything you do, and I just feel like that's like this core value of like what we need. Like we need guys that want to compete, because if we're not competitive, it doesn't matter how talented you are. Like I'll take a competitive guy all day. And then the same thing with being a good teammate. We want to see guys that care about their friends. They want to see guys that go out there, pick their teammates up. They're talking. They're not selfish. They're not pouting because of their result. They're involved in the whole process. And I would challenge guys. That's something you can control. You can't control always whether you get a hit, whether you make a great play, whether you make a great pitch, whatever it is. But you can control being a good teammate. You can control being competitive in all aspects.
The final question that comes in from parents week in and week out has to do with, and this is what I call my core vive question of the week from a parent. And this particular question came in from New Hampshire. With regard to the weight room, we keep hearing coaches talk about physicality, being able to impact the baseball. What is a day in the life of a student athlete at the collegiate level really look like with regard to strength training? Is that something that's only done on during practice times? Is it in season, off season? Where is the role of strength training now with regard to like a Cal Berkeley fall season and obviously in the spring season as well?
Yeah, we're super lucky. We have an amazing strength coach. He's actually the head of the entire strength coach at Cal. He oversees the entire department and he trains our baseball team specifically. But he's really knowledgeable. He's really passionate about it. And our guys are in the weight room with him minimum 3 days a week in the fall, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. They lift early in the morning between 7 and 9 o'clock. But they have conditioning and cardio every morning. They're getting in there and getting after it out on the football field, actually doing their agility and doing all their speed training and all that stuff. And then they take that straight into the weight room and then they'll lift and they'll get their strength training in. And he is really good about making sure that guys understand like what their body does well when they come in. So he assesses their whole body, understands their strength, understands which side is stronger or what type of mover they are, things like that. And then he's going to attack your weaknesses while still trying to make your strength. So I mean, our guys see huge gains in strength, explosion, movement patterns, all that stuff. And it's really cool because we get a chance to work with him. Like he'll talk to me about the hitters and say, what are you seeing in these freshman hitters that I haven't seen yet? Like, what are you trying to do with them that maybe they are able to do or not able to do or things like that? And then he can specifically program certain things into their work to be like, hey, we want to be able to hold, this position longer. So I need to train more, whether it's core or whether it's med ball rotation or whatever it is. Like he'll combine that with them. So our guys are in there quite often. They get after it. And then in season, minimum of 2 lifts a week with him, sometimes a third, just depending on our game schedule. He does a really good job of understanding their bodies and their recovery. And but our guys get way stronger, way more explosive, and we're able to take it out on the field and have fun with it.
Okay, last question. Somebody's watching or listening, and they want to be a Cal Berkeley student athlete. What's the best way for them to get on your radar? Is it through camps? Are you guys active with social media? What's the best way for a student athlete that has interest in Cal to approach your coaching staff?
I mean, I think social media is the first place you start. Obviously, following coaches, sending them messages, sending them video, sending us emails, things like that. Those are all good ways to touch base. But if you want to get on the radar even more and you don't feel like you necessarily are yet, I would say camps are a really good way because we can see a lot of players when we go to tournaments and things like that. But it's hard because there's always teams that we're picking like, all right, we got to see this guy. We're bouncing around the games. And so when you come to our camp, it's a way for you to put your name in front of our face and we actually watch you and assess you and see what you're doing. So we have a bunch of prospect camps. We have a bunch of things like that gets you in front of our entire staff. We're able to evaluate you. We're actually able to be on the field and see like how you move and how you, honestly, we can kind of see what kind of teammate you are and how competitive you are because we're kind of more hands-on in the trenches with you. So I think camps are a great way to get on a college coach's radar and also just show them what you're capable of. And it shows them that you're confident, that you want to show off your skills.
And I would encourage parents and athletes, again, through the Blue Book app, you're able to find out all the camp information for Cal. You're able to find out the coach's contact information. Also, you're able to upload your video over a progression period of time from maybe your sophomore, junior, and into your senior year. So, having a Blue Book profile is obviously going to help with regard to communication with a school like Cal or any college within your immediate area. Brett, I want to say thank you because I really was excited about the opportunity to spend some time with you. I followed you when you were a student athlete at Arizona State, obviously as a big leaguer in and through the Astros and Padres, and now at such a prestigious program as Cal Berkeley. And I hope you have a great upcoming season and many years. I'm sure you're going to be a college coach for many years beyond just Cal, but best of luck in the 26th season, 27th season as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.